Hey guys, it's Molly and today I'm back with another video. Today's video is going to be more on the serious side. It's going to be about my life-threatening illness, aplastic anemia. Now for this video I took a lot of notes just so I wouldn't forget anything. So let's just get started. So aplastic anemia is a rare condition in which the body stops producing enough new blood cells, so red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. And platelets are they're basically what clots your blood if you get a cut, and it's what stops it and like forms a scab and stuff. It also leaves you with a high risk of infections and uncontrolled bleeding. So this all started in 2014. Like the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, I started getting sick at the end of 2014, actually right after my first Shawn Mendes concert, just to put that in there, and then into the new year. I was diagnosed in March. So there are a lot of symptoms with aplastic anemia. My symptoms was I constantly got bloody noses, like all the time. I had a lot of bruising, and I don't bruise easily, but I was getting a lot of bruises, and I noticed on my hands, like right here, I had like little pinpoint small red spots, and I had never had chickenpox before. And I remember I was in math class, and I turned to my best friend Haley, and I showed her my palms, like, or not my palms, but like my hands like this, and I was like, is this chickenpox? And she's like, no, it's not. And then I was concerned because I never had bruising like that. And at that time I didn't know it was bruising, so I just brushed it off, not thinking anything of it. I was also very tired all the time. I was taking naps constantly, and waking up in the, like, I would go home, take a nap, wake up, go to bed, and then still wake up the next morning really, really tired. I also was dizzy a lot. I noticed it when I was taking showers. I would just be standing there taking my shower, and I would literally have to sit down in the tub because I thought that I was going to pass out because I was so dizzy. And that was weird because obviously that's never happened to me before. I've always been fine when I take showers, so that was also one of my symptoms. Another one of my symptoms was fever. I actually got sent home one day because I had like 102 fever. So, and I never had a temperature that high before. I've always been normal. If I had a temperature, it was like 100. It was never that high before. I also had shortness of breath, and I noticed this after Christmas vacation. We obviously have to walk around to our classes, and I noticed in between classes I was getting out of breath really fast. And obviously walking to your next class isn't that, like, it doesn't make your heart race, but mine was, and I literally would have to stop, and every time I got to class I was like huffing and puffing because I literally was short of my breath. So some facts of aplastic anemia is that it is treatable, but it does require a medical diagnosis. Lab tests are always required. I'm always having to go get my blood taken to check my blood counts and make sure everything's okay. And this sickness can last for a couple years, or it can be lifelong. The main, how do I say this, cure is a bone marrow transplant. There is also a treatment they try. It's through the IV, and I did that twice. The first time it didn't work, and we're thinking the second worked because I'm doing okay now. But later on in my life, my numbers could eventually drop. And when I say my numbers, I mean my blood counts. So those could drop, which would mean that the treatment worked for a little bit and then had stopped, so I would need to move on to a bone marrow transplant. So I'm going to jump into my experience with aplastic anemia and how I found out that I had it. So obviously I had all of those symptoms that I listed, and I ended up calling my doctor. Well, my mom called the doctor for me because one time, this is a little graphic or kind of disgusting at the same time, but I went to the bathroom, I did a number 2, and I noticed that there was blood in my stool, and obviously that's alarming to see. So I told my mom about it, and she had called my primary doctor and told him about it, and we scheduled an appointment. And then later that day, we were literally going to Walmart, and they called us back and they said, you need to go to the hospital, tell them everything you told us. So we were like, okay. So we went to my hospital, and I was there for 4 hours before I got seen. And I was in there, they took my blood, and we waited, and then they come back and tell us that they are rushing me to the bigger hospital. I don't want to say because it'll say where I live. Rushing me to this bigger hospital and saying that my blood counts were abnormal, and by abnormal they meant that I had zero platelets. My red blood cells and white blood cells were extremely low. They were not in the normal range at all, and that if it was, they were thinking it was leukemia. So if it was, that hospital couldn't treat it, so they needed me to go to the other hospital. So I got rushed via ambulance to this hospital, and when I got there, it was nighttime, so my doctor that I have now wasn't there yet. So I talked to this other doctor and told them all my symptoms and everything. So the next morning they had scheduled a bone marrow biopsy, and basically the bone marrow biopsy was to rule out that it wasn't leukemia. So basically what they had to do was they sedated me, and they took a huge needle and shoved it into my hip bone and took some of my bone marrow out. And I actually had to get that done a second time because they did not take enough bone marrow the first time, so I had to get that done twice. The good news was that it was not leukemia, but we found out that it was aplastic anemia. So once we found out that it was aplastic anemia, I was put on a whole bunch of medications. I had to stay in the hospital for 2 weeks. We tried that treatment for the first time that I said. I don't remember what it was called. It did not work. So they put me on all the medications. And every day while I was there, I was getting multiple blood transfusions and platelet transfusions. Multiple a day, because it was like every time they would give me it, it would just disappear. Like it was like there was a hole in my body. I just shot my number. It was like there was a hole in my body and they'd put it in and then it just like came out. Like it was gone. And so with the first treatment not working, we discussed the transplant and that we would need to find a match for me. And by that I mean someone who has the same blood type as me. And basically all this other stuff, I'm not sure all of that. But they discussed that. They discussed that I would have to go to Rochester, New York for my transplant, which is very far from where I live. And I would be there for up to 3 months. I would have to endure chemotherapy, basically everything that cancer patients have to go through, I would have to go through, because aplastic anemia is just a step under leukemia. So basically I would be treated the same way. So I would be there for 3 months, and then I had to come to this hospital that I was at for about a month after, just to make sure everything's okay and that my transplant works. There are some issues with the transplant though. The transplant might not work. My body could also reject it, meaning if it rejects it, we'll have to try again and with a different match if I had a couple of matches. And the worst possible outcome would be that I could possibly die from it. The good thing is though that we did find 3 matches for me. So if I do need the transplant, I do the matches so I can get my transplant. The only bad thing about this is that aplastic anemia can evolve into leukemia at any point in time, and I could also relapse. So if I were to get the transplant, I could relapse back and have it all over again. I also forgot to mention that there are some causes of this, but the main cause is unknown. They're not really sure what causes this to happen. At first I was diagnosed with hepatitis A because when I was sick between the end of 2014 beginning 2015 before I was diagnosed with this, I did go to another doctor, and he diagnosed me with hepatitis A because I was yellow and I had contracted jaundice somehow. So that's what they said I had. They said I had hepatitis A. But the doctor that I have now said that I was misdiagnosed, and if I did have hepatitis, it would have been hepatitis C, because hepatitis C can turn into aplastic anemia. As of right now, I'm doing perfectly fine. My numbers are in the normal range. I see my doctor about every 3 months now, which is good, as I was seeing them every day, and I was getting transfusions every time I went there. So now we've stretched it out, and I'm seeing her every 3 months now. And yeah, I'm doing fine. My numbers right now, they've been staying at the same time, same amount. Usually they were going up and up and up, and now they're just staying in the same amount, or they have gone down just a couple numbers. They haven't gone down drastically. So yeah, I'm doing fine right now. Like I said, I go back there every 3 months to check on me, make sure everything's okay, ask if I've had any problems. But recently I have been getting concerned because the past 3 days I've gotten a bloody nose every day. And TMI, but I did recently start my period, and it was very, very heavy the first day, and my period has never been that heavy, so I'm a little concerned. But we did call them and tell them the second day that I had a bloody nose, and they said that my numbers are fine, but if anything else happens, to call. So my mom's tracking everything I'm telling her, and if it progresses, if I notice bruising, if I am getting all the symptoms that I had before, then I do need to call and let my doctor know. But yeah, guys, I'm doing fine right now. I'll be sure to do an update if anything were to happen, but I don't want you guys to be worried or concerned or pity me or anything, because I'm doing fine. I'm okay. If you guys have any certain questions about aplastic anemia, or questions about me, personally about all of this, just comment them down below and I'll answer them. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm sorry it was more serious than my videos usually are, but I did do a poll on Twitter for this, and this won. So be sure to follow me on Twitter. I do polls all the time on videos that you guys want to see. I let you guys choose. I list a couple of them. I also put in other options, so if there's something you guys want to see, to let me know. So please comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.